What up, world? R.I.C.H coming right back at you. Listen, today, this is not a story you can just rush through. Today is about a memory and about how easily sometimes people can forget. Before documentaries, before protests, before slogans and movements that had no names, Sean Bell was just a man getting ready to get married. 23 years old, unarmed, a father, a baseball lover, a young man studying to become an electrician, a regular life in motion. The morning he was scheduled to walk down that aisle, he never made it home. On November 25th, 2006, a celebration turned into a tragedy that will rip through a family and echo through the city.
The night of November 25th, 2006, Sean Bell was hosting a bachelor party at Club Kahlua the day before his wedding. The New York Post reported that Joseph Guzman had an argument with a man outside the bar and threatened to get a gun. One of Bell's friends reportedly said, "Yo, get my gun," as they left the club. Thinking a shooting was about to take place, a plainclothes officer named Guest Guard Nora followed Bell and his friends outside. He alerted his backup team who confronted Bell and his friends. According to his Nora, he, quote, held out his badge, identified himself as a police officer, and ordered the driver to stop, unquote. Instead, allegedly Bell accelerated the car, striking his Nora, and it collided with an unmarked police minivan. His Nora said he saw Guzman reach for a gun. He yelled a warning to the other policemen, and they opened fire on the car to prevent the possible shooting by Guzman. 5 of the 7 officers present took part in the shooting, firing about 50 bullets into Bell's car.
Sean was leaving his bachelor party with his friends. He never made it home. And the reason why still hangs heavy nearly 2 decades later. This is not about reliving pain for shock value. This is about understanding what time does and does not heal. When the news broke, the country watched. When the trial came, the country argued. And when the verdict arrived, a lot of people felt like nothing arrived at all.
On April 25th, 2008, all 3 of the police officers indicted were acquitted on all charges. On May 28, 2010, U.S. District Judge Sterling Johnson Jr. of the United States District Court for the Eastern District of New York lifted a stay on the civil lawsuit brought by Nicole P. Bell, Sean Bell's fiancée and mother of his daughter, against the city of New York. On July 27, 2010, a settlement was reached. New York City agreed to pay Sean Bell's family $3.25 million. Joseph Guzman, who now used a cane and had 4 bullets lodged in his body, was to receive $3 million, and Trent Benefield was to receive $900,000. The total amount of the settlement was $7.15 million.
The legal process moved on, but grief doesn't follow court calendars. For Nicole Bell, life did not reset. It reformed around absence. The world first saw her as a grieving fiancée, the woman who lost the love of her life hours before marriage. But cameras leave and headlines change. And what remains is a woman who still has to wake up, still has to raise kids, still has to function in a world that moved on faster than her pain did. Nicole raised 2 daughters alone, but not without strength. Daughter Sean never got to see grow up. 19 birthdays and 2 sweet 16s. Milestones marked by pride and loss. This is the part that never makes it into the news recaps. This is where the story actually lives. Not in courtrooms and not in protest footage, but in quiet moments where a parent has to explain an absence they didn't cause. Aftershock, the Nicole P. Bell story exists because time does not erase responsibility. It only tests your memory. Directed by Alicia Glidwell and co-written by Cass Siggers, the film does not speak over Nicole. It hands her the mic. That matters because this is not a story about symbols. It's about a woman who had to turn grief into structure just to survive. Nicole is not asking for pity. She is documenting truth.
These dates, they symbolize something. You know, it's something that not only affected my family, but it affected the community around us. You know, if you look around this neighborhood here, that house right there had bullet holes through the front window. So it wasn't only my family that was affected, this community was affected, our nation. We had actually tried to have the wedding on November 23rd, but it fell on a weekday. So that's how we ended up with Saturday, November 25th. And it's not only the day Sean passed away, but you know, that would have been my wedding anniversary. So it's a lot to think about. Every day, you know, it's still a struggle. Many people believe that, you know, the civil suit went by and we're rich, when that's not the case. It's a court order that, you know, my daughters will receive it when they're 18. Every day I'm still working, you know, raising my children and running my programs. I founded When It's Real, It's Forever, nonprofit organization in 2007, immediately after Sean passed away, just out of a passion, you know, that we have for showing support back to the community who supported us so much.
She said something powerful that stuck with me. She said she keeps going because somebody in heaven is rooting for her. That ain't a quote for likes. That is how people stay alive after a loss. What makes this film important right now is that a lot of people have forgotten about Sean Bell. Not out of malice, but because time trained them to. And that's how tragedies lose their urgency. Aftershock is a reminder that some shocks never wear off. They just get quieter. This film isn't trying to spark an argument. It's trying to restore a memory, not just of how Sean died, but how he lived and how his family continues to live in his absence. This is why the story still matters and why telling it now is an act of courage, not reopening wounds. When stories like this come back years later, some people ask why. Why reopen something so painful? But that question misses the point. Some stories are never closed. The reason Aftershock matters now is because time does not equal resolution. It just creates distance. And distance makes people uncomfortable. Comfortable with not knowing. Comfortable with not remembering. This film is an interruption of that comfort. And it does it without anger. It doesn't shout. It doesn't accuse. It simply stands still and tells the truth from one family's point of view. A lot of people think justice is a finish line. You cross it or you don't. But for families, justice is a daily conversation with absence, and absence never gets answers. Nicole had to become many things at once: a mother, a griever, a protector of memory, and eventually a storyteller. Not because she wanted to, but because no one else was going to tell it right. This is what makes Aftershock different from news coverage. News clocks out. Life does not. This film doesn't try to turn Sean into a martyr. It restores him as a human being, a man with dreams interrupted, a father who never got the chance to do the day-to-day things that matter the most. This is an important distinction because symbols get politicized. People get forgotten. Aftershock pushes against that. It says his name while reminding us of his life. And it does something else that's rare. It centers women who were forced to be strong without asking for that role. Nicole's daughters didn't sign up for this life. They inherited it. And they grew up watching their mother navigate a world that expected her to move on without ever receiving closure. This is why the title Aftershock is so accurate. The event didn't end when the noise stopped. The real damage came after. The film also sits inside of a larger conversation, one that didn't have a name back in 2006. Long before slogans, people were already experiencing these losses. Long before social media, families were already navigating public pain in private. Aftershock does not ask you to pick a side. It just asks you to listen. And in a time where everything moves fast, listening is a radical act. This film is not about reviving an old debate. It's about documenting what never stopped. Real lives continued. Real children grew up. Real women learned how to hold grief and function at the same time. Nicole said when the cameras left, her village stayed. That line matters because systems failed. Communities did not. Aftershock is a thank you letter to that village and a record for the generations coming behind them. This film is not trying to exhaust you. It's just trying to remind you that names matter, that stories matter, and that memory is a form of respect. Sean Bell's story did not begin with his death, and it does not end with a documentary. But this film ensures one thing, that his name remains alive in conversations, not just archives. Salute to Nicole P. Bell for finding the strength to tell the story her way. Salute to the family that has turned pain into presence. And salute to everybody who understands that some wounds don't heal. They teach a lesson. But hey, that's just my opinion. What's yours? Like, comment, subscribe, establish rich. I'll be back with another one. Peace.